Hey gamers, how you doing? If you saw any of my previous videos, you know that I love 2D fighting games. And it's sad to see that many of them don't get a sequel for over a decade, some of them for over 2 decades. And many are very successful games, and games that every gamer that loves fighting games would love to see in the sequel. So, in this video, let's talk about 2D fighting games that needs a sequel. Okay gamers, let's start. Dark Soldiers. Dark Soldiers, or Night Warriors, is one of the fighting games with better characters. Some of them, like Anakiris, Dimitri, Felicia, and Special Marine, appear in many crossover games. Capcom vs SNK, Tatsunoko vs Capcom, Marvel vs Capcom series, and even in Super Puzzle Fighter and Capcom Fighting Evolution. The last game in the franchise was Dark Soldiers 3, released in 1997. Capcom made a compilation of the series in the 2013 with online play and better graphics for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. The game is still very popular in the fighting game community, and last year, in 2019, there was many tournaments in Japan and US with good prize money. Of course, it wasn't the main game in the event that usually is for Street Fighter, Tekken or Smash Brothers, but it was very successful and have lots of viewers both in Twitch and YouTube. The Last Blade franchise is one of my favorite fighting games in the Neo Geo. The gameplay in the series is very good, probably one of the best ever made. This Neo Geo game is a Samurai Shodown, but with combos. Because the first 3 Samurai Shodowns didn't have many combos. The game takes place in Japan in the end of the Tokugawa era, and many characters are inspired by the manga of Rurouni Kenshin. That is by far my favorite manga. I also love other mangas like One Piece, Dragon Ball, Trigun, Kenichi, Golden Boy, but Rurouni Kenshin is by far my favorite. And maybe for that reason, the game have a special place in my heart. The music is also one of the best. Like Samurai Shodown, the music is from old Japan with the typical instruments of the time. I played this game so many times in my arcade machine, but the first time I played, it was in my Dreamcast. And like almost all fighting games in the Dreamcast, there was a arcade perfect port. Please see this intro, it always gives me chills. Who doesn't agree that this is the coolest title for a fighting game ever? The Art of Fighting. And let's be honest, who doesn't know Ryu Sakazaki, Takuma Sakazaki, Yuri Sakazaki, Roberto Garcia, King, and a few more. But unfortunately, most of fighting games probably know these characters because Kings of Fighters and Capcom vs SNK. The Art of Fighting franchise takes place a decade before the original Fatal Fury, also in South Town, and the final boss in that fighting 2 is none other than a younger Geese Howard, with long hair, that looks exactly like Andy Borgett from Fatal Fury. I love it, but I must be honest, the gameplay is not as near as good as other SNK franchises, especially Art of Fighting 1 and 2. Art of Fighting 3, The Path of the Warrior, released in 1996, was the last game in the franchise and is by far the best. It's still not as good as other fighting games, but the gameplay is better. In my opinion, with so many good characters and story, SNK could easily revive this franchise with a reboot or Art of Fighting 4. KO! Another cool title from SNK. Fatal Fury consists in 8 games: Fatal Fury 1, Fatal Fury 2, Fatal Fury Special, Fatal Fury 3, Really About Fatal Fury, Really About Fatal Fury Special, Really About Fatal Fury 2, and Garo Mark of the Wolves. We also have Fatal Fury Wild Ambition in 3D and Fatal Fury First Contact for the Neo Geo Pocket. But let's focus in the main series. The main character in this franchise is none other than SNK poster boy, Terry Borga. That is my favorite character ever in any fighting game. In the first Fatal Fury, Terry and Danny Borgett, along with their friend Joe Higashi, try to revenge the death of Terry and Danny's adopted father, Jeff Bogart, killed by Keith Howard. Fatal Fury 1, Fatal Fury 2, and Fatal Fury Special were very good, but this franchise hit the roof with top quality in Fatal Fury 3 and really about sequels. Graphics, music, gameplay, outstanding combos, everything in this game is a dream for any fighting game lover. The last one, Garo Mark of the Wolves, is one of the best fighting games ever made. Pro players all over the world love this game. The game is so popular that last year, 20 years since its release, SNK improved the netcode because lots of people still loves to play this game online. One cool story about the first Fatal Fury is that the best all-time Street Fighter player and multiple times world champion, Daigo the Beast Umehara, that I have the pleasure to meet in 2006 in a local tournament, started playing fighting games when he was a little kid in the original Fatal Fury. Because the Street Fighter 2 arcade machine was too high and he wasn't able to play it, and he started playing Fatal Fury because the arcade machine was smaller, and in that machine he can reach the controls. Just like Art of Fighting, Eternal Champions have everything to be one of the best fighting games. The game have everything, except the most important, the gameplay. The gameplay was not bad, but it was near as good as Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, Last Blade and others. The game also don't have many characters, but they're all very good and completely different from each other. We can choose between a pirate, a priest, a cowboy, a green beret, a ninja, a cyborg, a prehistoric hunter, a knight, a circus acrobat. All characters have fatalities, and the game also have some stage fatalities like Mortal Kombat. It have all the ingredients to be one of the best fighting games if Sega improved the gameplay. But unfortunately, this franchise was completely abandoned by Sega in the 90s. This game was a dream come true for any player. This was a crossover between the two best fighting game companies in the 90s. I can't believe my eyes when I saw the game for the first time. Finally, I could play in the same game with my two favorite fighting game characters, Terry Borgett from Fatal Fury and Ryu from Street Fighter. What a dream that was! And how about Terry vs Ken, Ryu vs Q, Mai vs Chun-Li, Giz vs Bison, or Akuma vs Rugal? We can also choose between the SNK Groove Bar from the Kings of Fighters and Capcom Groove Bar from the Street Fighter Alpha series. In the first game, the gameplay is a little more played like SNK games with only 4 buttons, and the sequel, Capcom vs SNK 2, is played with 6 buttons like a Street Fighter game. I played both games in my Dreamcast. Unfortunately, the Dreamcast pad was very bad to play fighting games, and we don't have the internet at the time or Amazon for us to buy arcade stick. But the game was so good that I keep playing until my fingers almost bleed. Please tell me in the comments below which 2D fighting games do you want to see a sequel. Please take care and see you soon.